उमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Continuing with the descriptions given by Lord Kapila of a dying man, specifically an attached householder, how he gives up his body, what are the conditions, the situation, the surroundings when an attached householder gives up his body. So in the previous verses we saw how in the midst of pathetically crying relatives and the man he himself having lot of desires but unable to express that in front of others, he finds himself in very awkward condition, very painful situation. And at the final moment, when the time comes, Shri Krishna Balarama ki, when the final moment approaches, when he is supposed to give up his body, what exactly happens? Here we see Yamadutau tada praptau. The dying man, specifically a sinful man who has spent his whole life in varieties of sense gratification activities. So he sees two Yamadutas, Yamadutau tada praptau, who have come there. And how are they? Bhimau. Bhimau means terrible. They are not simple, nicely clothed or pleasing. No. They are very terrible to look at. And on top of that, sarabhasekshanau, their eyes filled with wrath, anger. Terrible people with full of anger. They have come. Sadrishtva trasta hridayaha, looking at them, this dying man on the bed, looking at these two Yamadutas, trasta hridayaha, fully frightened at heart. Shakran mutram vibunchati, he passes urine and stool without control. So this is how a dying man looking at the sight of terrible, frightful Yamadutas passing urine and stool, he gives up his body. In another portion of the Bhagavatam, there is description of how a yogi voluntarily, on his own accord, he gives up his body. There are several holes in the body, Navadvara Puri, specifically 9 holes are there. The 5 openings on the upper part of the body and 2 openings in the lower part of the body. When a man dies, the soul, along with the prana, the life air, passes out of the body through one of these holes, one of these openings. In case of great yogis who have taken care of their next destination, they have well planned, well practiced different kinds of Ashtanga yoga, different systems through which they guide the prana, the life air, at the point of death to go through the upper openings, specifically the Brahmarandra, and then they travel to their desired destination after their death. On the other hand, who are not well trained, not sufficiently practiced, they give up their life, or the prana, the life air, goes out of their body in varieties of ways. Some examples are given. Some people, when they give up their body at the point of death, they open their mouth wide open, because the life air, the prana, it may pass out through their mouth. It would have passed out through their mouth. And some, while dying, they open their eyes very wide open. So this is also an opening. So life air would have escaped out of the body through their eyes. And majority of the people, as mentioned here, especially in Kali Yuga, people, highly sinful people, who are simply focused towards different kinds of sense gratification throughout their life with no training of higher yogic principles. For them, how will they give up their body? By passing urine and stool. Because the prana, the life air, along with the spirit soul, passes through the lower openings of the body. So that's why, to avoid this, so when it happens, what will happen? He will be taken care by, as mentioned here, the custodians of Yamaraja, the messengers of Yamaraja, who will take charge of the person and who will carry him, take him to the abode of Yamaraja for further treatment. Depending on his karma, the required punishment will be awarded by them. So to avoid this, a yogi who doesn't desire to go to the nether regions of whatever Yamaloka, what do? Through all their yogic gymnastics, they try to block specifically their lower openings and guide the spirit soul along with the life air to pass through the Brahmarandra. I'll read this verse. This is mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Parshmyapidya gudam pranam hrid urah kantamurdhasu aropya brahmarandrena brahmanitvo srijet tanum. Parshnya apidya gudam. Parshnya means with the heel of the foot. The yogi, he stands on one leg, with the other leg and its heel, he blocks the anus region. And pranam hrid uraha kantha murdhasu. He guides the life air, the prana, from the region of the heart to the chest, through the neck, kantha, and finally murdhasu, towards the head. Aropya brahmarandrena, the brahmarandra or the opening on the top of the head, skull. So from there, aropya brahmarandrena brahma neetva utsrajet tanum. So he gives up his body by whatever, like say, by guiding the prana, the life air, to go out of the body to the brahmarandra. And by fixing his mind, his consciousness on which destination he wants to reach, he travels to that destination. The painting you would have seen in Bhagavad Gita book, the yogi sitting in meditation and his life air, the soul, along with the soul, passing through the Brahmarandra to some higher planetary systems. So this is how a yogi does. The translation: the yogi who has achieved the mystic perfection called Swachanda Mrityu. Swachanda Mrityu means, this is what? Whenever he wants, wherever he wants, to whichever destination he wants to go, he'll go. He'll plan and go. But otherwise, normal people, we cannot decide the time, the place, or our next destination. No, it's not there in our hands. We are completely bound by the stringent laws of material nature. Specifically, the people who are completely involved in sense gratificatory activities, committing all sinful acts, will be taken care by the Yamadutas, the messengers of Yamaraja. So this Swachanda Mrityu blocks the anus with the heel of the foot and then lifts the soul from the heart to the chest, to the neck, and finally to the head, situated within the Brahmarandra. The yogi then gives up his material body and guides the spirit soul to the selected destination. So this is how the yogi does. If not for this, on the other hand, an attached householder has to see the Yamadutas who are very fearful. They are so fearful, and this attached household man, he becomes so frightened in heart, because two things. One is the excessive attachment what he has towards his body, his relatives, to the property, all of these things what he has made. Now the Yamadutas have come to take him away from all of these things. See, we should we have got this experience, something very close to us, something what we like, and it is being taken away from us. It gives lot of pain for a living entity. At least I have seen once during a train journey, one woman, she had lost her purse, the bag what she was carrying, and maybe after, she was taking rest, and when she woke up and saw the bag is missing. Everywhere throughout the bogie she is going up and down, checking left and right, fully fearful, asking each and every person and creating a big scene there. Because of course maybe some money she would have kept, valuable she has kept, and she has lost it and she is unable to find it. Completely bewildered, fearful, with tears in eyes, just for losing one bag. And we have seen many people, especially when parents lose their child at young age, we have seen how terribly they cry, losing very near and dear ones. So now, when a person loses his property, one bag or some money or something, loses his close relative, father, mother, brother, sister or friend or whatever, it gives so much pain to the person. Then what to speak of at the point of death? We have to give up the body which we are so attached to, which is so close to us, which we can't think of our existence apart from our body. This is how the material world is going on. Who are we means we completely identify through this body. I am son of such and such person, this is my designation, and this is my height, this is my weight, this is my complexion, this is my body. Everything we think of in terms of the body what we have received. It is so close to us, we cannot think of any existence outside this body. And what is death? When forcibly we are made to give up this body. Yamadutas come, they throw their ropes and tie and snatch the soul and take it away. And the poor spirit soul, he keeps looking back, his body is lying dead. So this is what in the Ajamila's case also, this description is given. Sapashahastan trin drishtva purushan atidarunan. So here I think Yamadutau, 2 messengers are given. In Ajamila's case, 3 messengers had come, 3 Yamadutas had come. Sapashahastams, holding ropes in their hand, trin drishtva purushan atidarunan. And they were very daruna, very fearsome to look at. Vaktratundan, defaced, their face is not like normal, defaced. Urdhvaromna, their hair standing on end, straight. Atmanam netumagatan, they had come to take away the soul of Ajamila. And looking at them, this dying Ajamila, he became very fearful, and of course by his good fortune he called out his son by the name Narayana. But in everyone's case this may not happen. So what will happen? Looking at the Yamadutas, so fearful, and he himself so being attached to his body, his things around him, and unwilling to give up his body, but fearful people have come and they are taking away. In that frightened condition, he passes, or the soul passes out of his body through his lower openings, and at that point of time he passes urine and stool and gives up his body. So this is the end of a person who is completely attached to his household life, varieties of sense gratificatory activities. So this is some abominable way how he passes or loses his life, gives up his body. So what's the solution? What's the way out if we want to avoid such situation? As mentioned in other part of the Bhagavatam and many other places in the Vedic literatures, there are different kinds of yogic systems to avoid this kind of a death, and guide the prana to reach some higher destinations. But in the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, they recommend not just to go to some higher planetary systems, enjoy some higher kind of sense gratification there. No. Ante Narayana Smritihi Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinisthaya Janma Labah Parah Pumsam Ante Narayana Smritihi. Throughout our life, whatever dharma or religious activity we have performed, or yoga we have performed, whatever mystic yoga performances, and jnana, knowledge what we have gained, it should ultimately result in Narayana Smriti, remembrance of the Supreme Lord. And through that, we'll be able to go back to Godhead. Of course, as devotees, we just not simply depend, okay, somehow at the end moment I'll remember the Supreme Lord, which is also not so easy. Our focus is just towards remembering the Supreme Lord throughout our life, at every walk of our life, remembering the Supreme Lord, following the instruction of Krishna as given in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru, to always remember Krishna. Now, I'll read out 2 verses from the prayers of Prahlada Maharaja, which he offers to Lord Narasimhadeva, wherein he says, "My dear Lord, now you have appeared in such a form which was unseen before, in the form of half lion, half man, this kind of a form. And in future, people will remember you in this specific form, and they will give up their fear. Because this material world, it is padam padam vipadam. At every step there is danger, which gives lot of fear to the people in this material world. And specifically when we hear such things, the description as given in Bhagavatam of how an attached householder gives up his body, Yamadutas come, they forcibly take him away. All of these situations create great fear in a human being. If at all we want to avoid this fearful condition, Prahlada Maharaja says, we have to remember Lord Narasimha's form. The Yamadutas, all these descriptions we are hearing, how they are so terrible to look at. Bhimau, Sarabhasekshanau, very fearful and with wrath, anger in their eyes. They look at very terrible forms. But Lord Narasimha's form, it's also more terrible than anything else. Let us see what Maharaja Prahlada says. Tadyachamanyuma surascha hatastvayadya modeta sadurapi vrishchika sarpahatya lokascha nirvriti mita pratiyanti sarve rupam nrisimha vibhayaya jana smaranti. Janaha smaranti vibhayaya, to become fearless. People, they remember this form. So he says how? Tadyacha manyu asurascha hatastvayadya. Now that this asura, this Hiranyakashipu is already killed, my dear Lord, give up your anger. Tadyacha manyu. Manyu means anger. Give up your anger now that the demon is killed. Because modeta sadurapi vrishchika sarpahatya. When a scorpion, when a snake is killed, even saintly people, they don't get bewildered or they are not dissatisfied with that. Because especially saintly people, they don't tolerate another person being hurt or being killed. But still, when it comes to the case of a scorpion or a snake, which are very envious and create trouble and create great fear and pain to others, even saintly people they don't deny that. So, lokascha nirvriti mita pratiyanti sarve. All the people throughout the 3 worlds, lokascha nirvritim, they get pleasure now that this demon is killed, and they remember you in this form to come out of all kinds of fear. My Lord Narasimhadeva, Please therefore cease your anger. Now that my father, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, has been killed, since even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake, all the worlds have achieved great satisfaction because of death of this demon. Now they are confident of their happiness, and they will remember always your auspicious incarnation in order to be free from fear. Next verse also. Naham bhibemya jitateti bhayanakasya jihvarka netra brukuti ravasogradam strat antras rajakshata jakeshara shanku karnan nirhrada bhita digibhata ribhinna khagrat. So here this description we can see. Naham bibemi. In the beginning itself Prahlada is telling, I am not fearful. Looking at your form. What kind of form? Ajitate atibhayanakasya. You are insurmountable, unconquerable, and your form is very fearful. How is it? Jihva arka netra brukuti rabasogradam strat. His jihva, tongue, it's whatever, very sharply pointed tongue, whatever, coming out of the mouth. Arka netra, his eyes are glowing like the sun, full of radiance. Brukuti, his eyebrows completely in a specific manner, with full of anger. His eyebrows are static. And then Rabasa Ugra Damstrat, his teeth, he's grinding his teeth. He's standing. Antras Rajaha, he's wearing one garland, but not of flowers. That garland is of intestine of Hiranyakashipu, of his own father. Prahlada is telling how he has broken apart his belly region and pulled out his intestines, and he has garlanded himself, Lord Narsimha. Antras Raja Kshataja Keshara Shanku Karnan, and the blood which has come out of the body of Hiranyakashipu, throughout it has smeared specifically the veins and all different portions of his body. And Shanku Karnan, his ears like a sharp edged, it is standing erect. Nirhrada bhita digibhat aribhinna khagrat. And the sound, the roaring sound, what the Lord is making, and big elephants are fleeing away hearing that sound. So such fearful form of Lord Narsimha. And Prahlada says, Naham bivemi, I am not fearful of this form. In the purport, very nicely, I'll read out the translation first. My Lord, who are never conquered by anyone, I am certainly not afraid of your ferocious mouth and tongue, your eyes bright like the sun, or your frowning eyebrows. I do not fear your sharp pinching teeth, your garland of intestines, your mane soaked with blood, or your high wedged like ears. Nor do I fear your tumultuous roaring, which makes elephants flee to distant places, or your nails, nakhagrat, or your nails, which are meant to kill your enemies. I am not afraid of any of these things. This is a devotee, because he knows who is there in front of him, his Lord. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a lion. The lion is very fearful for all animals, human beings, everyone, lion, tiger, or wild animals and all. Everyone feel very fearful to go in front of that. They are very fearful. But The same lion's cub, a small baby lion. The baby lion, it is not fearful looking at its mother or father lion. It goes, plays around whatever the father or mother lion. It's never fearful. Likewise, a devotee, he knows who is this Lord who is standing in front of him in such a fearful form. He is my master, he is my Lord, he is my father. So, there is no fear required. He is my protector. Ultimately, if at all he wants to destroy me, who can give me protection? I am completely dependent on his mercy. I am completely dependent on his maintenance. If at all I need to be protected, he is the only person who can maintain me, protect me. Nobody else in this material world. A devotee is fully convinced with this fact, confident of the protection of the Supreme Lord, so he is never fearful. And another example Srila Prabhupada gives how, I'll read the purport, this portion. Lord Narasimha Deva's fierce appearance was certainly most dangerous for the non-devotees, but for Prahlada Maharaja, such a fearful appearance was not at all disturbing. The lion is very fearsome for other animals, but its cubs are not at all afraid of the lion. The water of the sea is certainly dreadful for all living entities on the land, but within the sea, even the small fish is unafraid. Huge water body. When we look at it, sometimes we feel fearful. When we are traveling on some bridge, maybe in bus or train or whatever, and we look out from the window or the door, huge water body, some big rivers, and if we look at it, we find it very fearful. And if we are thrown inside that, we'll become very uncomfortable. We become very fearful even looking at it. But there are small fishes, very tiny fishes in the same water below. But those fishes are not afraid. Nicely they are swimming around everywhere in the water. Why? Why? Because they have taken shelter of the water. So they need not fear of the water. But we have not taken shelter of the water. So if we look at that water body, huge water body with terrible waves, we become very fearful. Then, again another example is given. It is said that although great elephants are taken away by the flooding waters of the river, the small fish swim opposite the current. Some rivers are there, during rainy season, it floods. The level of the water rises high and it enters whatever different territories and it floods. It carries along with it anything and everything. Different, some big vehicles we see being carried away by the flood water, and sometimes in the forest, even elephants may be drifted away by the huge current of the river bodies. But in the same river, there will be small fishes which swim in the opposite direction. Look at it. In the opposite direction it swims. Big elephants will be carried away by the current, but a small fish goes opposite side of the current, nicely swimming. Therefore, although the Lord sometimes assumes a fierce appearance to kill the Dushkritis, the devotees worship Him. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. The devotee always takes pleasure in worshipping the Lord and glorifying the Lord in any form, either pleasing or fierce. So, in varieties of forms the Lord appears, the devotee takes shelter of Him, and he takes great pleasure in whatever form the Lord appears in glorifying Him. If we don't do this, The opposite we have to face in our life. An attached person, completely spending his lifetime in different varieties of sense gratification, committing all sinful activities. At the point of death, he sees Yamadutas in fearful form, completely frightened. He passes urine and stool and has to give up his body. On the other hand, devotees, they take shelter of the Supreme Lord. They lead their life, invest their time and energy in the service of the Supreme Lord, hearing the message of the Supreme Lord, worshipping Him in varieties of His forms, completely fixing their consciousness on the Supreme Lord, and they are not fearful of death. When death comes, the Lord is there, He will take care of me. And with full confidence, He will be ready to face death. So we'll conclude with this. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,